Well, here in the United Kingdom, the Sue Gray report is out and it's sent ripples across the country. The report has added to concerns for the embattled UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson as the chorus for his resignation after its publication grew further. Prime Minister Boris Johnson apologised to Parliament after his government was criticised for failures of leadership and judgment in allowing lockdown-breaching parties at Downing Street. He promised to make changes not only to his team, but also to the way he engages with his Conservative Party. Johnson's words were met with a handful of cheers.
But, Mr. Speaker, it isn't enough to say sorry. This is a moment when we must look at ourselves in the mirror and we must learn. And while the Metropolitan Police must yet complete their investigation, and that means there are no details of specific events in Sue Gray's report, I, of course, accept Sue Gray's general findings in full. And above all, her recommendation that we must learn from these events and act now. I get it, and I will fix it. And I want to say, to the people of this country, I know what the issue is. Yes, Mr. Speaker, yes. It's whether this government can be trusted to deliver. And I say, Mr. Speaker, yes, we can be trusted.
Former British Prime Minister Theresa May said that the public had a right to expect their Prime Minister to have read COVID-19 rules. She also condemned some of the behaviour in government as being difficult to justify.
What the Gray report does show is that Number 10 Downing Street was not observing the regulations they had imposed on members of the public. So either my right honourable friend had not read the rules, or didn't understand what they meant, and others around him, or they didn't think the rules applied to Number 10. Which was it?
Britain's opposition politicians have shown little sympathy. The Labour leader Keir Starmer accused Johnson of passing on the blame to others.
It's evidence of serious and flagrant breaches of lockdown, including the party on the 20th of May 2020, which we know the Prime Minister attended, and the party on the 13th of November 2020 in the Prime Minister's flat. There can be no doubt that the Prime Minister himself is now subject to criminal investigation. The Prime Minister must keep his promise to publish Sue Gray's report in full when it is available, but it is already clear that the report discloses the most damning conclusion possible.
The leader of the Scottish National Party, Ian Blackford, was forced to leave the House of Commons after he accused Johnson of misleading Parliament and said that the Prime Minister must resign.
Well, they can laugh, but the public know. The public know this is a man they can no longer trust. He has been investigated by the police. He misled the House. He must now resign.
The 12-page Sue Gray report highlighted that there were at least 16 parties held at Downing Street when England was under lockdown restrictions. The Met Police is now investigating 12 of those 16 parties. The Prime Minister's office said that Gray would be asked to update her report once the police investigation concludes, and it would then be published. Johnson's position has been hanging by a thread following a steady drip of revelations since late last year. A Snap opinion poll of just over 1,000 British adults by Opinium found that 62% now wanted Johnson to resign, with 83% thinking he had broken lockdown rules. The saga has become the gravest threat to Johnson's premiership. Let's listen to how some Londoners have reacted to that report.
I think it's a very disappointing lack of integrity in leadership, and that's really sad for our democracy. Should he resign? I think so. But my fear is that things won't necessarily change just because he changed.
I think it's another example of how Boris Johnson has been kind of very casual about his application of the rules and the gap between standards that we expect from our elected officials and what Boris Johnson is actually able to do.
I think he's not fit to be in Prime Minister. I think he should resign. I think he's revealing things that we know about him already. So there's no surprises.
I think it's enough.
No, it's not enough. Everyone obviously to just follow the rules, whatever he said on the TV, and to find out now that actually they have quite a lot of parties and they enjoy their time. That's quite ridiculous. Comparing like other family lost mothers, fathers, children's with this COVID-19 and they didn't have the chance to say goodbye or to see them.
Well, we can go live now to our WION London correspondent, Giles Gibson, for the latest on this. Giles, it seems like MPs within the Conservative Party are still split over whether the Prime Minister should stay or resign. So what's the latest from those in Westminster?
Well, Laura, we know that Boris Johnson met with the 1922 committee on Monday evening in an effort to shore up his support amongst Conservative MPs. This is the committee that's made up of backbench Conservative MPs, and it's also the one that we've been watching really closely over the last several weeks to see if there are enough Conservative MPs pushing for a no-confidence vote in Boris Johnson. We're hearing different things about how that meeting went. Allies of Boris Johnson, such as Jacob Rees-Mogg, who is the leader of the House of Commons, have said that there was a positive mood in the wake of that meeting. But on the other hand, there are also several high-profile Conservative MPs now pushing for Boris Johnson to step down in the wake of Sue Gray filing her report. We've heard from Andrew Mitchell, who is a very long-serving Conservative MP. He's also a former cabinet minister. He said that Boris Johnson is running this government like a medieval court, and that he said that Boris Johnson is also damaging the Conservative Party by remaining in office. We still just keep going back to, Laura, don't we, that magic number of 54. That is the number of letters that the chair of the 1922 committee, Graham Brady, is going to have to receive in order for there to be a no-confidence vote in Boris Johnson. At this stage, it looks like the Sue Gray report has wounded Boris Johnson once again, but that we are not at the stage where enough Conservative MPs are prepared to send in their letter to trigger that no-confidence vote. Of course, we still have that Metropolitan Police investigation hanging over Boris Johnson and hanging over 10 Downing Street. And so when that wraps up, when details about that emerge, then that could be another tipping point for Conservative MPs who are on the edge about whether they still give Boris Johnson their support or not.
And Giles, of course, with all of this engulfing number 10, there's that other question, of course, as to whether this is getting in the way of other issues that actually need the Prime Minister's attention, isn't there?
Well, and that's exactly the accusation that Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition Labour Party, is making. He's saying that Boris Johnson is just so distracted by this rumbling on scandal that he's not able to do the business of government, that he's not able to focus on issues that are really a massive problem for Brits here in the middle of winter, such as rising energy costs. We're also on the foreign policy front seeing an effort from Downing Street, really this effort to try and portray Boris Johnson as rolling up his sleeves, as being the world leader and getting out onto the international stage. Of course, as you were saying, we know that Boris Johnson is heading over to Ukraine. He's going to be holding a meeting with the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, to talk about those Russian troops massing on the border between Russia and Ukraine. So at this stage, it looks like with Sue Gray's report having wrapped up, that the pressure is easing off Boris Johnson ever so slightly. But of course, that Metropolitan Police investigation still rumbling on in the background, and that could raise its head at any moment.